Good morning. This is Michael Smolens, government editor of the San Diego Union-Tribune, coming live from the newsroom on Thursday morning. As we do every morning, we're taking a little stroll around the newsroom to talk to reporters and editors about stories we're working on today. And we're going to start off with Gary Robbins, one of our science writers, and who also covers weather very closely and very in-depth for us. And nothing like a Thursday before a long weekend to talk about weather, travel, and things like that. It's a little gray out there today, Gary.
And it's going to be that way through Memorial Day. This is kind of a preview of what we're going to have. It's like May gray. It's pretty common this kind of time of year. The temperatures are going to be fine, 69, 70 degrees at the coast, 5 to 10 degrees warmer inland. But it's going to take a while for the marine layer to burn off every day. So it'll be mostly decent sunshine in the afternoon, but it's that kind of blah in the morning.
Even at the coast, or sometimes it never quite leaves the coast?
That's right. The Weather Service says it'll likely burn off, but like yesterday we had it kind of sunny, then cloudy, sunny. It was coming in and out throughout the afternoon, and that's probably what will happen through the weekend. So
for people going to the beach, surfers and other folks, what are the sea conditions like, and surf and riptides and so forth?
Well, it depends if you're a grommet or not. Mostly it's going to be 2 to 3 feet along the coastline, so it's not really huge. And it doesn't look like it's really shaped very well, but 2 to 3 is good for most people. The water is not too bad. It's warmed up some to 63, 64 degrees. Some spots have gotten up to 65. But, you know, I would remind parents on this, a lot of people don't go to the beach en masse until this time of year, Memorial Day, and they kind of forget the dangers that can happen. So even if it's only 2 to 3 feet, you really have to be careful, particularly with children going in and out of the water. You know, they rush in, the winds come up in the afternoon, and they make the surface rough, and so you can lose track of someone small real quickly. People need to be really careful watching their kids at the beach, and it'll be gray, so the metallic color of the water makes things hard to watch. So it's not big surf, but it's decent, and there will be rip currents, even though the surf is on the smaller side.
Well, you mentioned the gray. With my bad eyesight, and I surf, sometimes when it's gray, you can't quite see the waves coming. Can be a surprise.
It can.
Yeah. Let me ask you a final question. Lots of travel this weekend from some people. What's the outlook for that?
The outlook, it's fine. There doesn't look like there's any really bad major weather coming. I looked across the United States and the 4-day forecast. Places like Boston, New York, Chicago, it's going to be partly cloudy, seasonable temperatures, not the big kind of thunderstorms you worry about when you're flying. The real hot spots are places like Miami, which is going to be almost 90. And Phoenix, oh my God, if you're going to Phoenix, it's going to be 105 degrees there on Memorial Day. But as far as bad travel weather, it doesn't look like there's going to be major problems across the country.
Okay, well, have a good weekend yourself.
You too.
Okay, well, as opposed to our usual long walk around the newsroom, we're just going to walk around this little pod of desks and talk to my friend Hugh Fawn. Sorry, Hugh. Who's has a military story that he's going to tell us about a local ship that's berthed here.
I should mention, first of all, that one of my teammates, Gary, talked about 105 degrees on Memorial Day in Phoenix, and that's where I'm heading for this weekend. So,
good for you.
Drinking lots of ice.
It's a dry heat.
Yes, that's right. We'll take solace in that, right? So one of our San Diego-based ships, the Dewey, is out in the South China Sea, and I wanted to quickly show folks that this is the area that we're talking about right here, where China is up here in the north, the Philippines right here, where Trump had just met with the leader of that country. Here we have Vietnam, Taiwan is right here, Malaysia, and this is a highly, highly coveted shipping lane. Lots of shipping traffic for industry, for commercial goods, and so forth come through here. But not only that, but a third of the world's fishing biomass in terms of seafood comes from this one area of the world right here. And then there's also rich reserves of oil, various minerals, and so you can see how money comes into play for a lot of countries. And so there are all kinds of small islands and fishing territories that are rival territory claimed by numerous countries. And so China has been creating these man-made islands out here. One is right over here, another is over here, and that has raised complaints from the U.S. and its allies. And so the U.S. has been putting a fleet of naval ships here many times during the year. Currently, our San Diego-based Vincent aircraft carrier fleet is there. And so this morning, the news was that the Dewey came very close to one of these man-made islands purposely to basically show military force by the United States. And of course, instantly generated this accusation from Beijing that the U.S. was invading China's territory and impeding on its sovereign rights. And the U.S. said this is free open space, and we are making sure that it stays open. It's a tit-for-tat game. Nobody expects there will be missiles launched or lives killed, but it is definitely an interesting dynamic between two superpowers.
Now, what type of ship is the Dewey?
I think the Dewey is a destroyer, basically an accompanying ship that follows an aircraft carrier usually. And right now the aircraft carrier is off. Well, let me move this up north a little bit. Off of this area here. We've heard many times about Trump sending a fleet of naval ships over to be able to try to exert some influence on North Korea's leader.
Finally went in the right direction.
They finally went in the right direction after they went down south towards Australia, then into Indonesia, and so the Celebi Sea, and finally up here, right? And so this is all part of this idea that the Navy calls distributed lethality, which is to have our U.S. naval ships in so many key parts of the world that we become like a deterrent force rather than having to actually engage in combat.
Okay. Well, thanks. We'll look forward to the story.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, and I'll wrap up here with another story we're working on. Unfortunately, our reporter Gary Worth, who's covering it, is out on the assignment covering this story. It has to do with the San Diego Unified School District and their relatively new policy. It's a policy to prevent or discourage bullying of Muslim students. We've called it an anti-Islamophobia policy, which some in the district have caused. But there's been concern because a part of the overall policy would teach students more about Islam. And this week, a lawsuit was filed. There's been opposition to it from some folks, and mostly conservative groups. But a lawsuit was filed, a federal lawsuit, challenging that policy, claiming there was an issue about religion and church and state, and why aren't other students of other religious persuasions having the same kind of protections. It's all in a formative stage, so there may be some adjustments to that. But today, we've talked with the people. We had a story just the other day on the people that have filed the lawsuit. They're holding a news conference, but interestingly, folks in support of this policy are holding a news conference, specifically the Council for American Islamic Relations. They were the ones that talked with the district about this concern because they did a study, I think, in the last year or so, talking about how many Muslim students statewide had been bullied and looking for some relief and some help. So we've done an ongoing series of stories on this, and it'll continue on. So pay tuned to the Union-Tribune website and the newspaper for a follow-up by Gary Worth later today and tomorrow morning. That'll be it for today. Keep an eye on our website, and we'll be reporting on a lot of other stories. This is Michael Smolens from the UT Newsroom.